Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridhari Yashoda Nandana Raja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Raja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridhari Yashoda Nandana Raja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parira Jakacharya Ashtotara Shata Shri Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parira Jakacharya Ashtotara Shata Shri Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Jayam Vishnupad Srila Gaurkishore Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai Jayam Vishnupad Srila Satchidananda Bhaktivedanta Thakur Ki Jai Jayam Vishnupad Vaishnava Sarvabhuma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai Jaya Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunatha Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Das Raghunatha Sad Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopal Gopinath Shamakun Radhakun Gir Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Yamuna Mai Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai Gunath Raj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai ISKCON Varma Guru Vrinda Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Gora Pramanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru Sri Guranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Narayana Namaskritya.
Narayana Namaskritya.
Naram Chaiva Narottamam.
Naram Chaiva Narottamam.
Devam Saraswatam Vyasam.
Devim Saraswati Vyasam.
Tito Jayam Nivedayat. Nastapreshu Apatreshu. Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Bhagavati Uttama Shloke. Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by the rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. And loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Okay. So today we are reading Canto 4, Creation of the Fourth Order. Today is October 12th, 2024. 13th. Is it 13th? Okay. October 13th, 2024. We're reading Creation of the Fourth Order, Canto 4, Chapter 24, chanting the song sung by Lord Shiva, and we're reading verse 61. Yo maya yedam pururupa yashrijad. Vibharti bhuya shapayatya vikriya. Yad Veda buddhi sadivatma dustaya. Tvamatma tantram bhagavan pratimahi. Yo maya yedam pururupa yasrijad. Vibharti bhuya shapayatya vikriya. Yad Veda buddhi sadivatma dustaya. Tvamatma tantram bhagavan pratimahi. Yo maya yedam pururupa yasrijad. Vibharti bhuya sapayatya vikriya. Yad Veda buddhi sadivatma dustaya. Tvamatma tantram bhagavan pratimahi. Okay, please chant.
Yo maya yedam pururupaya srijat.
Yo maya yedam pururupaya srijat. Vibharti bhuya shapayatya vikriya.
Yad Veda buddhi sadivatma dustaya.
Yad Veda buddhi sadivatma dustaya.
Atma tantram bhagavan pratimahi.
Tvamatma tantram bhagavan pratimahi. Yo maya yedam pururupaya srijat. Vibharti bhuya shapayatya vikriya. Yad Veda buddhi sadivatma dustaya. Tvamatma tantram bhagavan pratimahi.
Yomaya Yedam Purupaya Srijat
Yomaya Yedam Pururupara Srijat
Vivarti Bhuyap Chapayat Yavikriya
Vibharti Bhuya Sapayata Vikriya
Yadveda Bhuri Savilat Madhushtaya
Yadveda Buddhi Sarivat Madhustaya
Tantram Bhagavan Pratimahi
Pramadma Tantram Bhagavan Pratimahi Yomaya Yedam Pururupaya Srijat Vibharti Bhuyam Sapayata Vikriya Yadveda Buddhi Sarivat Madhustaya Tamatma Tantram Bhagavan Pratimahi. Anyone else want to try? All right, we'll do word for word. Ya, one who, Mayaya, by his energy, Idam, this, Paru, manifold, Rupaya, manifestation, Asrajat, created, Vibhati, maintains, Bhuya, again, Shapayati, annihilates, Avikriya, without being altered, Yat, that, Beta Buddhi, sense of differentiation, Sat, and eternal, Eva, like, Atma Justaya, giving trouble to oneself, from, unto you, Atma Tantram, fully self-independent, Bhagavan, O Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, Pratimahi, I can understand. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. My dear Lord, you have manifold energies, and these energies are manifested in manifold forms. With such energies, you have also created this cosmic manifestation. And although you maintain it as if it were permanent, you ultimately annihilate it. Although you are never disturbed by such changes and alterations, the living entities are disturbed by them, and therefore they find the cosmic manifestation to be different or separated from you. My Lord, you are always independent, and I can clearly see this fact. Please repeat. My dear Lord, you have manifold energies, and these energies are manifested in manifold forms. With such energies, you have also created this cosmic manifestation. And although you maintain it as if it were permanent, you ultimately annihilate it. Although you are never disturbed by such changes and alterations, the living entities are disturbed by them. And therefore they find cosmic manifestation to be different or separated from you. My Lord, you are always independent. And I can clearly see this fact. Purport. It is clearly explained that Lord Krishna has multi-energies, which can be grouped into three, namely the external energy, the internal energy, and the marginal energy. There are also different cosmic manifestations, namely the spiritual world and the material world, as well as different types of living entities. Some living entities are conditioned, and some others are eternally free. The eternally free living entities are called Nitya Mukta, for they never come in contact with the material energy. However, some living entities are conditioned in this material world, and thus they think themselves separated from the Supreme Lord. Due to their contact with material energy, their existence is always troublesome. Being always in distress, the conditioned soul considers the material energy to be very much disturbing. This fact is explained by Vaishnava Kavi or poet. Krishna Bhule Se Jiva Anadi Bahirmukha Ateva Mayatare Deya Samsara Dukkha. When the living entity forgets the Supreme Lord and wants to enjoy himself independently, imitating the Supreme Lord, he is captured by the false notion that he is the enjoyer and is separated from the Supreme Lord. This material energy is therefore very much troublesome to the spiritual energy, the living entity, but the material energy is never troublesome to the Supreme Lord. Indeed, for the Supreme Lord, both the material and spiritual energy are the same. In this verse, Lord Shiva explains that the material energy is never troublesome to the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord is always independent, but because the living entities are not independent due to their false idea of becoming independently happy, the material energy is troublesome. Consequently, the material energy creates differentiation. Because the Mayavadi philosophers cannot understand this, they want to be relieved from the material energy. However, because a Vaishnava philosopher is in full knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he finds no disturbance even in the material energy. This is because he knows how to use the material energy for the service of the Lord. In the government, the criminal department and civil department may appear different in the eyes of the citizens, but in the eyes of the government, both departments are one and the same. The criminal department is troublesome for the criminal, but not for the obedient citizen. Similarly, this material energy is troublesome for the conditioned soul, but it has nothing to do with the liberated souls who are engaged in the service of the Lord. Through the Purusha avatar, Mahavishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead created the whole cosmic manifestation simply by breathing out all the universes. The Lord creates and maintains the cosmic manifestation as Lord Vishnu. Then as Sankarshan, he annihilates the cosmic manifestation. Yet despite the creation, maintenance, and destruction of the cosmos, the Lord is not affected. The various activities of the Lord must be very disturbing to the tiny living entities, but since the Lord is supremely great, he is never affected. Lord Shiva, or any other pure devotee, can see this clearly without being blinded by Veda Buddhi, or differentiation. For a devotee, the Lord is the supreme spirit soul, since he is supremely powerful. His various powers are also spiritual. For a devotee, there is nothing material, for material existence only means forgetfulness of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnana Shalakaya Chakshuramilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Namanobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Karamayam Dadati Swaparantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamstra Shri Rupam Sagrajatan Sahagana Raghunatham Tam Sajivam Savadetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagapate Gopesha Gopeka Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radha Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Suti Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhevacha Patidanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasani Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. All right. So this verse, Lord Shiva is talking about all the different energies and forms of the Lord, of Krishna. So we have the external energy, which is, what's the external energy? Anybody? The material world, yeah. And then the internal energy, what's that? Spiritual realm. And then what's the marginal energy? Yeah, it's living things. Yeah. So, and so some people think that the material world is distinct from Krishna, but it's not. Krishna is inside of us, outside of us. He's in every atom. He's also in Goloka Vrindavan, enjoying nice pastimes with the gopis. But he's also in this thing that we don't know what it's for, right? And we're never separated from the Lord. Because we think that we're separated from the Lord, we're disturbed by the material energy, right? But the Lord is all around us. He's in here, he's in here, he's in here, he's in there, right? So the Bhagavad Gita says that for one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I am never lost, nor is he ever lost to me, right? So one of the forms that the Lord takes, that Krishna takes to help us kind of make that connection between the material energy also being Krishna is the deity. And so, of course, I do a lot of Pranjari Seva, so I want to talk a little bit about the deity, right? So the Lord is so kind, he gives us this form in order to focus our love, right? Because it can be a little difficult to focus our love when there's, okay, the Lord is all around me, and the Lord is here, and okay, I really love this microphone stand. I'm gonna, dress this microphone stand. I'm gonna also do that to this stool. That can be overwhelming, right? And it can be difficult for us to really wrap our minds around that the Lord is in all of those things. But he gives us the form of the deity so that we have a way to focus that love. And also, it allows us to take care of Krishna, right? Krishna doesn't need us to dress him and bathe him every day or feed him, right? Krishna's God. He can dress himself in an instant in whatever he wants, or feed himself whatever he wants, or if he doesn't even want to eat, he doesn't have to, right? But in the form of the deity, right? He's sort of a little bit helpless. He's just standing there. And we have to bathe him and dress him and put his little shirt on and offer him flowers. And this also helps us to be regulated, right? It's sort of like, when you have a child and your child is hungry, you have to feed them regularly. You can't just feed them one day and then the next day not feed them, right? No, eventually the state will get involved. Your kids will get taken away because you have to take care of them every day. And so, yeah, so it's a little bit like that with deity worship. If you have the proper mood, right? It's like having a child. You need to take care of him every day, and the process of doing that helps us to become more regulated in our thoughts and in our deeds, right? I know for me, when I worship I worship the temple deities, but also my personal deities. There's some mornings where it's nice to sleep in or although I don't really think that's, but now, if I even start to think something like that, I say, no, wait, I can't. I have to dress corny tie. I can't just leave them, not dressed in the same clothes they wore yesterday. And so that really helps me to be more regular in my spiritual practice. And the same with my room. It helps me to be more regulated because, and also to keep the room clean. I might make a mess in the room and say, oh, it's not a big deal, but it's not just me in there, right? Krishna's also in there, even though Krishna's always in there. But because I have that deity form of Krishna to remind me, I see him, I take care of him every day, so he's on my mind. And this also will allow us to express our creative propensities, right? I've said this before, but before I put white on, I really enjoyed, wearing bright colors and dressing up and putting on different jewelry and all kinds of stuff. I really enjoyed, and I still enjoy doing those things. Only now I do that for the deity, right? So I'm able to still express that propensity, but as a service to Krishna instead of just sort of servicing my ego, right? And so Srila Prabhupada has said some really nice things about deity worship and the deity in general. And it's really, for someone that is new to Krishna consciousness, it can be somewhat difficult, to understand the concept of what the deity is. I had people say, I just don't understand the deity. It's just basically they just view the deity as just another form of matter, But for someone that has been doing deity worship for a little while, they have a little bit of realization that no, this is actually Krishna. And so when they hear someone, disparaging the deity, it can be quite painful, right? To be like, oh no, please don't say that about the deity. So this is what Srila Prabhupada says in third canto from one of the purports. The Lord is transcendental to our mundane senses. He cannot be seen with our present eyes, nor can he be heard with our present ears. To the degree that we have entered into the service of the Lord, or to the proportion with which our lives are freed from sins, we can perceive the Lord. But even though we are not free from sins, the Lord is kind enough to allow us the facility of seeing him in his archamurtis in the temple. The Lord is all-powerful, and therefore he was able to accept our service by presentation of his archa form. No one, therefore, should foolishly think the archa in the temple to be an idol. Such an archamurti is not an idol, but the Lord himself. And to the proportion which one is freed from sins, he is able to know the significance of the archamurti. The guidance of a pure devotee is therefore always required. And there's so I really liked that quote because Srila Prabhupada is saying, like, look, with our present eyes and ears, we can't see the Lord directly, right? And so the deity is a way that we can do that, and we can give him our service and our love. And I admit, when I first started deity worship, I was kind of like, I don't know so much about this, I'll try it. But really, after doing it every day, you really do start to build a relationship. It really deepens that relationship with Krishna. Okay, so this is a short quote also from Srila Prabhupada. This is very important business, deity worship. The more the deity is decorated, the more your heart will be decorated with Krishna consciousness. I thought that was very sweet. And then one more. This is from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. The deity is known as Archa Vigraha or Archa Avatar, an incarnation of the Supreme Lord in the form of material manifestation, brass, stone, or wood. Ultimately, there is no difference between Krishna manifest in matter or Krishna manifest in spirit, because both are his energies. For Krishna, there is no distinction between matter and spirit. His manifestation in material form, therefore, is as good as his original form, Satchid Ananda Vigraha. A devotee constantly engaged in deity worship according to the rules and regulation laid down in the sastras and given by the spiritual master realizes gradually that he is in direct contact with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we can see that for Srila Prabhupada, the aspect of deity worship was a very important aspect of Krishna consciousness. And the reason that is because it allows us to kind of use the material energy to get closer to Krishna. Whereas most of the time, the material energy is kind of fighting us, right? The material energy is fighting us to pull us away from Krishna because we like it, we like the material energy. That's why we're here. So, now, the deities will also reciprocate with you. There's so many stories about this happening in various ways. So, I wanted to tell two stories about the Nrsimha deity in Mayapur. He's one of the deities I'm most attracted to. I don't know why, I'm just crazy about him. So, does everybody's seen him, right? Yeah. Okay. All right. So in the 1980s, the devotees in Mayapur, they were being attacked by dacoits, by thieves. And at one point, they came into the temple there and they tried to steal the deities of Srila Prabhupada and Srimati Radharani. And you can imagine the devotees were just totally distraught. They're trying to fight these thieves. There was even shots fired. They managed to rescue the deity of Srila Prabhupada. But the deity of Srimati Radharani just said that she could no longer grace the altar. So I'm assuming maybe she was broken or the thieves got away with her, but I think perhaps she might have been broken or something. She was taken. Okay. Yeah, when everything I read, they didn't specify. They just said she could no longer grace the altar. And so could you imagine if someone came in here right now and started going up on the altar trying to take our deities away? I mean, we would be very disturbed. We would be fighting those people, right? So the devotees, they were really upset by this. And so it was suggested that they install the deity of Lord Nrsimha, right? And so first they had to find someone that could carve him, which is like no small feat. So they asked a very famous Stapati, which is like a deity carver. They asked a very famous Stapati, and he was just like, oh yes, sure, yes, oh. And then they told him, well, they wanted him to carve an Ugra Nrsimha. And then he said, oh, no. I will not do that. So they asked many other Stapatis, and the answer was always no. Nobody wanted to carve the Ugra Nrsimha, the very fierce form of Nrsimha. So again, they went back to the first Stapati that they asked, who was a very, very famous carver. And that Stapati, he had approached his guru. And this is what he said. This is a quote from the story I was reading. The Stapati had approached his guru, the Sankacharya of Kachinapuram, about our request. His guru had at once replied, don't do it. Your family will be destroyed. But then after a moment's reflection, the guru asked him, who has asked you to carve this deity? When he heard that it was the Hare Krishna people from Mayapur, he became very concerned. They want Ugra Nrsimha? Are they aware of the implications of carving and installing Ugra Nrsimha? Such deities were carved over 3,000 years ago by elevated Stapatis. There is a place on the way to Mysore where a very ferocious Ugra Nrsimha is installed. The demon Hiranyakashipu is torn open on his lap, and the demon's intestines are spilling out all over the altar. Once the standard of worship there was very high, with an elephant procession and a festival every day, but gradually the worship declined. Today that place is like a ghost town. The whole village is deserted. No one can live there peacefully. Is that what they want for their project? The Stapati replied, they are insistent. They are constantly coming to talk to me about the deity. Apparently they've had some problem with dacoits. Handing his guru a sketch of the deity, he said, this is the deity they want. His guru took the sketch and looked at it knowingly. Ah, this is the Ugra category, he said. But a deity in this particular mood is called Stanu Nrsimha. He doesn't exist on this planet. Even the demigods in the heavenly planets don't worship a form like this. Yes, this deity belongs to the Ugra category. Ugra means ferocious, very angry. There are 9 forms within this category. They are all very fierce. The one they want is Stanu Nrsimha, stepping out of the pillar. No, don't carve this deity. Okay, sorry. No, don't carve this deity. It will not be auspicious for you. I will talk with you about this later. A few nights later, the Stapati had a dream in which his guru came to him and said, for them, you can carve Stanu Nrsimha. The next morning, the Stapati received a hand-delivered letter from Kachipuram Kanchipuram. The letter from the Shankaracharya gave some instructions regarding temple renovations. There was a footnote. It read, "For ISKCON, you can carve Stanu Nrsimha." The Stapati showed me the letter and said, "I have my guru's blessings. I will carve your deity." So he did. He carved Lord Nrsimha, and it took much longer than expected because he had to go. It's a very interesting story. If you want, I can send you a link to further information about the story and some other stories. But when he's finally done carving him, he didn't tell the devotees right away because it was a rainy season. Everything was all wet. There was no visitors. So he locked Lord Nrsimha in his little thatched shed. And he went to visit a friend for a couple of days. And 2 days later, his neighbor runs to him and says, "You need to come home. Your shed is burning. You need to come home." So Stapati immediately, he returns home, and despite the heavy rain, the entire shed had just burned all the way to ashes. The entire shed where Lord Nrsimha was had burned all to ashes, except for Lord Nrsimha's in there completely unharmed. So the Stapati, he immediately called the devotees and he said, "Please come and take your deity. He's burning everything. He's made it clear he wants to go now." So they came and they got him. And then they had to take him back to Mayapur, which was usually a trip because of the nature of transporting a big deity like that. And it was a big trip that it should have been a carnival of bureaucracy, right? I mean, just like so many papers you need in triplicate and so many papers you need to go get from this guy and all that bureaucracy went so smoothly, which was very unusual, right? And so many of the people that had to approve certain papers, they wanted to see the deity, right? And as soon as they saw him, they said, "Okay, go ahead." And they just let him go. And so their progress back to Mayapur was virtually unimpeded. And so then they took him back to the temple and they installed him, and they had no more trouble with the dacoits. And that's the deity that you can see in Mayapur now. And so I always loved that story. I thought it was really interesting. So then now there's one more story I want to tell about that particular deity. So one day there was a woman devotee, and she was taking darshan of Lord Nrsimha, and she was praying to him, "Please remove any obstacles from my spiritual life." And she heard a voice that said, "I want my eyes back." And she just sort of ignored it. She just, that was weird. Okay. And then she heard the voice again, "I want my eyes back." And again, she tried to sort of not really pay attention to that voice. And she started having this kind of like pain and burning sensation in her heart. The voice continued, "Go to the pujari." So she went to the pujari room and she told the devotee she found there what had happened. And that devotee told her to tell Pankajangri, Pankajangri Prabhu is the pujari for Lord Nrsimha. And so she was actually talking to his brother. So he told her to tell him. And she didn't tell him. She just felt like, "Oh no, I've done enough." She didn't tell him. She went home. So the next day she went back and she's standing in front of Lord Nrsimha, and she's thinking about, "Gosh, that was so weird. What happened? Maybe that was just my own mind talking to me," because she had had a problem with her eyesight for like the last 6 weeks or whatever. She had very painful, diminished eyesight. Like it was very painful, and she had something going on with her eyes. She couldn't see right, and it hurt. And she was thinking, maybe that was just my own mind playing tricks on me and just kind of telling me, I want my eyes back, because obviously she did. If you have something wrong with your eyes, you want it to be better. So then she prayed for some clarity. She prayed to Lord Nrsimha for some clarity about this. And she heard that voice again. And the voice said, "You will get your eyes back when I get my eyes back." So the next morning, she arose very early, which was very unusual. And she arose and she went to Mangalarti. She didn't usually go to Mangalarti. She went that day. And after Mangalarti, she went to Pankajangri Prabhu and she told him everything that had happened. And he gave her some maha sweets and she went home. And so then the next day, her daughter, who had gone to the temple, came home just shouting, "Mommy, they changed his eyes. He has beautiful red eyes now." And within 3 days, her eyesight was back to normal. And so what had happened is you can change the eyes on Lord Nrsimha. And he had these big red eyes, which I have some pictures. One of my favorite pictures of him, he has these red eyes. And another devotee had come and he had brought two big gemstones to use for the eyes instead. And so he gave them to the pujaris, and the pujaris, they kind of didn't want to change his eyes, but they also wanted to please the devotee, so they changed his eyes to these gemstones. And apparently Lord Nrsimhadev didn't like that. And so when she went to the pujari and told him, he immediately, as soon as he was able, changed the eyes back, and suddenly her sight was restored. So in that way, we can see that the deity is not just some stone or metal or wood, right? It's actually Krishna. Even though intellectually we might know, hey, Krishna is in every atom, Krishna is in every living being. Krishna appears in the form of the deity so that we can focus our energy and our love to him. And he can also reciprocate with us while we're here in the material world. So now we're never separated, even though, like I said earlier, even though we might feel that we're separated from the Lord. That's why we're disturbed, because we're trying to enjoy what is Krishna's without him. And we're trying to enjoy what's his, even though we might know that it's his. It's kind of like if you go to a birthday party, right? You go to a birthday party and you get mad because the birthday boy got a bicycle and you didn't get a bicycle. They didn't give you a bicycle. Well, that's kind of dumb, right? Because you're at a birthday party for this boy. It's not your birthday party. So why are you trying to get angry because that boy got a bicycle and you didn't? It's his birthday party. So we're at Krishna's birthday party, and we're getting mad that the energy is not working in the way that we want, right? So we need to be satisfied with our quota, what we're given. So someone in Krishna consciousness, they're not disturbed because they have full knowledge that this isn't their birthday party, and they know they're not disturbed by that material energy. So I have one example that is really kind of silly, but a lot of people, they're afraid of insects, right? A lot of people, they don't like bugs. I'm not a big fan of bugs and never was. I don't like insects. But as I gain more knowledge in Krishna consciousness, suddenly I find myself not hating the bugs quite so much, right? And that's because I understand they're part and parcel of Krishna. They're jiva souls too. And that I once was a bug in a past life too. And hopefully I won't become an insect again, but it's possible, and therefore the bugs no longer disturb me as much, right? Because I have that knowledge, right? I understand, they're just going about their bug business, they're carrying out their karma, and that's what they're doing. And I don't need to, kill them or, be afraid of them. They're just doing their business, right? Now, that doesn't mean that, I want my house to be overrun by insects or my food, but it's just that consciousness of being kinder and gentler and understanding that they are part and parcel of Krishna. Also, a devotee in general, like they're not disturbed by the politics going on in the world, right? That's something that's so disturbing to so many people right now. It's election season. The election's going to happen in less than a month. And so many people are so disturbed by this, right? And it's because they're not understanding that everything is Krishna's, and he's the supreme controller, right? We're not the supreme controller, right? So there's nothing that we can do to, if our karma is to be broke and in misery, then that's what our karma is going to be. We can try to force the issue and play the lottery or work really hard or whatever it is to acquire more assets. But if that's our karma, then we're not going to get it. We're going to lose that money, or things aren't just not going to work out for us, right? And so it's kind of the same with politics, right? People are so disturbed by this, but we're going to get what we're going to get, That doesn't mean like, don't pay attention to anything, because we need to be aware of what's going on in the world and be kind to one another. But don't let it disturb your peace of mind. Don't let it disturb your service to Krishna, because that's what this is all about, is doing devotional service, right? Devotees aren't disturbed by the material energy because they can use it in service to Krishna. So, and that's what we're supposed to be doing, is be a servant to Krishna, and we can use anything in service to Krishna, anything. We're using this microphone not to have a big rock concert and entertain a bunch of people while they get intoxicated. No, we're using this microphone to send out transcendental knowledge, right? And so we can use anything in Krishna's service, and that's why the devotee is not disturbed by the material energy, because even when things are bad, we know we can use it in Krishna's service. There's a lot of the war in Ukraine, right? It's very sad. There's a lot of people in misery because of that. And I remember discussing this with some other devotees, and they were very distraught about the war in Ukraine. And it sounds very cold, but I said, this is good. And they're like, what? How could you say that? And I said, well, because when people are distressed, that's when they finally start to question, why is this happening? What can I do to change it? Why am I in misery? Why are my loved ones dying? But when things are going good, we don't think those things. When things are going good, we're just enjoying. We're not thinking about, why are so many others in misery and how can we change it? No. So when things are good, it's very easy to remain complacent. So also, I really love this last line of the purport. For a devotee, there is nothing material, for material existence only means forgetfulness of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this made me think of, we follow so many rules and regulations in Krishna consciousness. And why do we do that? Is it because we just enjoy following rules and regulations? Is that, fun? I'm just going to make up a bunch of rules and follow them. No, we're doing that, one, because they help purify us. But two, they also help remind us of Krishna, right? So if we have to follow certain rules and regulations, then we're reminded at every step of Krishna, right? So I was going to read the description of the universal form, but I don't think we have enough time for that. But the universal form in the Bhagavad Gita, which is chapter 11, verses like 4 through 32-ish. You guys should definitely read that. And because it becomes very clear, Krishna is everything. He's not just in Goloka Vrindavan. He's not just in our hearts. He's literally everywhere at all times. So we're never separated from Krishna. So we just have to use the knowledge that we have and figure out how to take this material energy and use it to serve Krishna. So with that, I will ask if there's any questions, or in particular, I would really love to hear if anybody has any stories about that they know about the deities and maybe some reciprocation that they've had or others have had from them. Okay, I saw Lavanga first, and then Divya Mataji. Okay.
So deity story. So I've heard from the Pujaris in Alachua, the ones that take care of Krishna Balaram. They're always talking about how mischievous Krishna and Balaram are. But specifically, they say that Lord Balaram doesn't like his earring in the right ear. And the Pujaris are trying to make things symmetrical, so it looks nice. So you see, they'll put the earring in anyway, and they'll go back in there, and the earring will be out, that one particular earring. And so they said, okay, let's just stop doing it. And the head was like, no, you have to keep doing it. And they're like, why? And they're like, because it looks better. So, they've actually seen, walking in and, Kuti's dressed. One Pujari told me she walked in and she saw this one lady, Kuti, dressing Balaram, and she's, fighting with Balaram. Like, I have to get you dressed. They told me I have to put this earring in your ear. This where, he'll, quite often, he throws it out for whatever reason, he doesn't like it.
Yeah, and those of us that are Pujaris here have had similar experiences, I think, with Gornikai. Yes, Divya.
My son was actually in Mayapur in Gurukula at the time of the fire in installing Lord Nrsimhadev. So it's pretty good mercy for him.
Yeah. Wow, I would love to have seen that.
Yeah, he told me about it before I'd even heard anything else. It's pretty far out.
Yeah, there's so many far out stories, and if anyone's interested, you can ask me. I can send you a link to
I would like that link.
Yeah, I'll send it to you. Yeah. Anybody else have any questions or comments or stories about deities? No?
I can tell another one.
Okay.
And then what else again? I collect deity stories.
So yeah, I think you've told me quite a few.
Oh gosh. Okay, which one did I tell this time? Okay, yeah, but no, since I told Lord Balaram deity story last time, I'll continue. Yeah, this one's documented. I heard this one at a seminar. This one devotee, he went around and he was trying to show other devotees that these deities are not just stone, that they're Krishna himself. So he went around collecting stories from pujaris and experiences that they've had with the deities they've been serving. And so this one story was when this one pujari, she was cooking for the deities, and she had this thought in her mind that the deities aren't really waiting for me to prepare their offering. Like, how could they actually be waiting for me to give their, she had some doubt about it, right? So then she hears this noise, and she walks into the temple room, and the Balaram deity, the altar had steps. It was like one of those altars that had steps, that you could, and the Balaram deity is on the second step, turns toward the kitchen. She said that was the only experience she had, but yeah, I thought that was pretty amazing. Also, Malati tells when Balaram installed Jagannath, the first Jagannath in San Francisco, that back in those days they didn't know all the rituals. They would just when they offered the food, they would all get around and say the prayers, and that was it. And so one day somebody had burnt their rice. And they said, well, offer it anyway, because it's not like they actually eat it. And so then they put it on the altar to offer it, and they all get around to the prayers, and they hear this bang, and then they open the curtain, realize the rice is kicked off the altar.
All right. Yeah, Kirtaneshwar, Durangadas.
There's so many I couldn't pick one out, but I just heard this one 2 days ago, listening to a class by one devotee I listened to, and he was saying that once there was some like interviewer coming to the temple. This is a temple in Ireland. I think there. Yeah, and there was some devotee coming to interview them, or like not devotee, some newsman was coming to like make a little interview thing for the temple, and they were taking pictures of the deities, and the guy kept saying, "Well, what about it?" He kept calling it, or the deities it, and the pujaris were like upset. They're like, we shouldn't do that. It's an offense, to call it an it. And so they had stepped outside and they were talking to each other. Why are they calling it? And then the newsman looked up, and the Radharani deity had turned to the side, and the man was looking at the deity. He looked down, he looked up, the Radharani deity had turned, and he was, he looked out, he saw that the pujaris were still talking outside the window there. And so he's trying to figure out who moved her, but then he told her, he told him, he said, what happened? And he said, they explained to him, don't call it an it. It's Radha herself.
Wow. All right, Uncle S. Prabhu.
The best deity story I know is in Shakshi Gopal. You want to read the ultimate deity story. It's so dramatic.
Is it the one where he's following?
Following, yeah, all the way.
It's so great.
Bring that to.
You should.
Forget the name of the village. Yeah, and I was the old Brahmin in the play, and when you're in a play about something like that, it becomes even more real. It's amazing. Yeah.
Also, I forgot to mention is you have a really amazing deity story yourself.
Yeah, but it's too long.
Well, but if anyone's interested, maybe they could ask you
Yeah, you
privately.
can ask me. Ultimately.
Yeah. All right, we'll end there. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Right.